Good evening out there, race fans. We are here for. I'm One Free Fist. Well, let's start with who I am. And I'm here with Beauty and Discovery, and we're here for the finals of the Alphador Derby tournament. What does that mean, Beauty and Discovery?
Hello, Fitz, and hello, everyone. That means that we are now at the end of our double elimination bracket for the Alphador Derby. We have got I'm All In and Nate as our two racers who have battled through thick and thin and made their way all the way to the top. And we are now in game one of a best of three series. So very much looking forward to that and where we see these racers go. We are going to start off with two characters, as we usually do. No key item, but we are on slightly harder flags than we were at the beginning of this tournament. It's only appropriate, right, being in the finals. And so we will, our racers will have slightly less money. Things will usually be a little bit more expensive. And then on top of that, gear and healing items will be randomized too. So, you know, your ether may not be exactly 10 MP like you're used to. It may be 8, maybe 9, may even be all the way up to 13. So it can roll up or down all the way across the healing item spectrum. So it kind of increases the randomization.
And I'm just wishing them the best of luck and the most of fun, as I'm going to drop the gate here and we'll get underway shortly. Yeah, I thought that was incredibly well put. I know from my top 8 seed, I had the pleasure in this tournament of losing to both of our finalists. I lost to All In the winners bracket, and then I lost to Nate in the Earthbound Island bracket. So squared off against both. Very talented. But yeah, where I noticed in the top 8 with the hard items, you mentioned the less money, more expensive. The drop tiers come down as well. So like I was finding by like end game, I could find some like pretty powerful stuff, but like up until that point, it was pretty sparse. It looks like we have Luca and Chrono to start. Luca, very good magic. Probably in terms of magic or casters, having the most pairings with other characters is super advantageous. Chrono, more of a physical character. More gonna need a weapon to really start doing a ton of damage. But in just the time, our characters, their texts are shuffled around the order they learn in. So it's possible Luca could learn Flare first, or she could have the vanilla Flame Toss to start out. And in the beginning, our runners are going to be running around. We got some loose, free power tab, magic tab, speed tabs we want to get our hands on, do our initial looting and shopping. We're looking for those mid tonics, ethers, shelters, revives, heals. I think that's everything. And then getting our first couple texts so we can see what we're working with and kind of decide where we're going to go from there.
Yeah, Nate is skewing the shopping run to start getting the grind in first. Guardia Forest here, kind of the ideal grind. You know, I think there's some argument there if that's ideal or not, but for most parties, it's going to be great. It's going to get your first batch of levels, your first 2 techs on your starting party, and that'll kind of help you determine, you know, what you're working with before you actually start going in doing any character or key item checks. You know, if it's like you mentioned, we have flipped the flag from easy or normal over to hard items. That affects gear as well. And with Chrono, unfortunately, more than any other character, really takes a hit with that setting. Because once again, as you mentioned, he really is gear reliant with his sword. And so, unfortunately, with harder items, it's harder to get out a sword for him. And you can kind of see him get backburnered much more easily in these harder flags.
Yeah, exactly. I did not. I was going to look. Let me look at Nate's. Let's see what we got. Because it's our second fight. Napalm and Spin Cut. I mean, Napalm is decent. It's it's sort of AoE. Spin Cut, pretty powerful. It pairs with fire and ice to get a good double tech going on. So potentially we could get some Fire Sword. Oh, Mega Bomb is the other one. Oh, and Confuse for Chrono. So Chrono knows all the physical attacks that we want them to. We probably won't need to unlock magic for them. I should mention in Jets of Time, we do have to unlock magic to learn beyond the first 3 starting techs for anyone that would learn magic in the vanilla game. So that's going to be Chrono, Luca, Marl, Frog. The other 3 do not need to unlock magic to learn all of their techs. I also did notice, like, I think there's like a traditional route, and I think the deeper we've gotten in tournaments, the more, I would say, experimentation to variations in that. We're checking that snail stop. We're doing this carpenter like pretty early, but both of our runners have kind of picked slightly different directions, and I don't know if it's that big of a deal, but it's kind of like, I think it is noteworthy that they both were quick to learn what their offense was, which gives us something, a runner, something to think about as they're kind of running around and doing that other stuff. So I like the move. Usually the snail stop, because we're only starting with 1,000 gold, we can't buy this item, and I missed it because of like a screen flip. So we'll have to pay attention to All In and see what it was.
Yeah, unfortunately, it looks like Nate's having a little stuttering on their stream. But these things happen. Not a big deal. We'll be able to see on I'm All In.
Yeah, now this Melchior shop here will typically have like middling weapons. I see a Demon Edge. It's -3. Beauty, you touched on gear rando here. And that's where we're going to see with those pluses and minuses where, oh, nice, a cat pet. First to pet cat. Do they win the race all the time? I don't know. Maybe. Anyway, so the plus or minus, it's a pendant. That's interesting.
Ooh, that's very interesting.
Sooner rather than later, but we'll have to do some fundraising in terms of finding more gear. Like a desert raid would probably be enough. Just like getting the loot alone to buy that pendant, but maybe we want to route that in down the line. Oh yeah, gear rando. The pluses or minus are either going to mean that it is worse than the vanilla item. Potentially, if the minus is big enough, we get a Magus in there. Lose any unique effects versus a big enough plus, it may gain additional effects. Both of our runners looking here. Seeing Magus there. Nate saving before so he can just reset out instead of running out. Oh, saved at the cathedral too. Interesting. This is
very smart.
So we're seeing like some really micro optimizations that I think casually is like, oh, what did that save? Like 3 seconds, but enough of those where I think, especially between these two runners, the margin, it might be in the like couple minutes mark. It's like those micro saves add up over time. We are seeing the desert dip here. A black vest +2, not bad.
Yeah, that's really nice for hard items. Black vest can absorb shadow, and that can be extremely useful. Actually, vest just cuts shadow damage, doesn't absorb yet. I think one of the other things you're seeing the runners do, if you're newer, is route in pickups of the various tabs that are available throughout the overworld. You're probably seeing some pluses in front of them. They are randomized how powerful they are too, and you get power, speed, and really magic tabs to boost your stats. And yeah, +4, +3, and +1 are very good rolls.
Speed being the most valuable. speed is very important. In Chrono Trigger, and especially Jets of Time, we want to ideally go before enemies get to go. I think compared to other RPGs of sort of this era, Chrono Trigger has some longer battle animations. Like, they're really cool. Don't get me wrong. I love them, but that takes time, and we're racing, right? So if our characters are faster than the enemies, it means we could either run by going into the menu and holding the run buttons, or use our like screen clearing magic, finish the fight, don't see any of their attack animations, sort of thing. So usually by the end game, we want to have someone that's got like 13 or 14 speed. I see we have a frog. We haven't talked. Let's talk about the go modes. Beauty, why don't you kind of take us through a journey of how do our runners beat the game? How do we beat this randomizer?
Yeah, one of the nice things about Jets of Time with Chrono Trigger is there are 3 different go modes, and key items and checks required are organized on the left side of our tracker beneath the characters. So you will see in the top row both pieces of the Moss Moon and then Melchior for forging them. You do kind of need a quote-unquote secret for having Frog in your party to then turn that in. That'll take you to Magus Castle, which will then take you to Zeal, through Ocean Palace, and to Lavos as your final battle. Second, we have the Gate Key, Dreamstone, and Ruby Knife in the middle row. Those ultimately will allow you to go back to Prehistoric, go through the Trano layer, which gets you to Zeal, and then to the Ocean Palace, and then to Lavos again. And then lastly, in our bottom row, you have the Pennant, the Clone, and the Chrono Trigger. So Pennant's going to unlock the future, and then Clone and Chrono Trigger get turned in the dome to let you go up Death Mountain, which will then unlock the Black Omen. And because the Black Omen is such a long dungeon to go through, we did have some pity on runners, and we do allow them to only get through the Zeal 2 fight. So normally in the vanilla, you fight the Zeal fights, and then you go fight Lavos. It'll just wrap up at the Zeal 2 fight. So it's a way to kind of balance all of them. Ultimately, Magus Castle is the longest and kind of the most maligned for it. But all are perfectly viable, and it creates some really interesting dynamics with different go modes coming in and how our runners execute, maybe what they're more proficient in versus their opponent, which is very, very interesting in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm seeing both of our runners electing to head all the way to the back of the cathedral to get a 4th character. I did see that Luca has Flare for her 3rd tech, which is incredible. We ideally might still want to unlock magic because Fire 2 is really the one that pairs with all of our like physical characters. I saw Frog is starting with Heal right out of the gate, one of our few party cures. So those are pretty valuable. I think that, I saw we got a Berserked Chrono going on over on Nate's side, and I also saw the Rage Band, which normally has like a % chance. I think it's 50% chance to counterattack. It rolled with a different effect, which is a 50% chance to fully fill a character's ATB when they're hit. So it's like not the most useful, but I've seen it used in like niche situations, or if you throw it on a slow character, there's a chance that they'll get maybe like an extra turn.
I think one of the other interesting things about routing here is Chapel ends up being a little bit of a, not a hot button issue, but a little bit of a argument point, if you will, for lack of a better term in the moment, where you can go to the back, fight a boss, in this case Flee Plus on Nate's side, and then get a character advance. So it's an additional character check. In this case, both of our runners are doing this. You will see a lot of runners go ahead and not do the back of Chapel, opt instead to start going for key items. So it's very interesting that both of our runners are making this decision. Now, a couple of our checks are key item checks are gated behind characters like Marl and Robo. Neither have showed up, and so it could be a driving factor in that case, because if something like the desert or the rainbow shell comes up and you need one of those characters, you're going to be in a lot of trouble versus your opponent that maybe made the decision. So interesting to see how this plays out, and maybe if it affects routing or anything where one of the runners maybe thinks my opponent didn't do that, but in fact they did.
Yeah, that's very astute. I think, yeah, this would be typically maybe in a race, like a point of divergence. Like the one of our runners makes the run back here. I think there's a couple of factors. One, both of our runners looked at the burrow, so they knew Magus is there, so we can like cross them off as who we're gonna get and see on Nate's screen shortly. So that really only leaves Marl, Robo, who both of those, you know, are related to key item checks, or Ayla, who pairs greatly with pretty much everyone, but especially Luca. So even if we got Ayla, like I would be like, yes. So it's pretty much like a great chance that it was going to be something good. Robo opens up the desert, which is a little bit of a harder boss to get through, but the enemies in there, if we clear them, generally give us enough of that power, especially if we have like a flare going on. Robo is slow. Oh, we have the ribbon though. That speeds him
That was
up.
their starting key item.
Robo's edge is going to be... Robo and Frog they're a little bit similar in a role. They both have the AoE heal. I think Frog has a higher magic stat, so is a little bit better at it. Frog comes with some more powerful magic and has, you know, the Uzi punch that, you know, just has a lot more power than the leap slash. So it's kind of like, I think it's rare that they're both around by choice, but with that ribbon, for now, I can see definitely switching them in, switching out Chrono here too.
Very interesting. I think kind of leaning into that sword is hard to find. So I'm all in getting their Robo in the castle. Nate opting, since, hey, we're already here, let's check the bridge check, which you have to do going in the basement. Finding a gate key, so absolutely sticking to it. So now, yeah, and we know where our gate key is. We know where our pennant is. This seat is wide open, relatively easy without doing any of the longer or more difficult dungeons.
Yeah, gate key is is path to unlocking magic, and if we get there before we have unlocked our third tech, we will learn that for free, which is really nice. But even like they're both having that Robo is like, I could be tempted to go try to do desert right away. We, you know, going to Hecarim to get enough tech points to fully get online is another option. Yum, yum, yum.
Yeah, I'm all in. Eschewing the bridge check is looking like probably Hecarim went back to 1000 AD. Sure enough, is parking there. You don't have any, full screen clears right away. I don't know if their Frog has picked up water too yet, but Napalm will do the trick. And so, like you mentioned, this will guarantee that all your magical lock characters get all three of their techs. And with Robo, hey, it doesn't learn magic, so doesn't need to unlock it via the gate key, even if it's easy to do at this point because it's going to be on bridge. So a little bit of divergence here.
Yeah, well, it kind of depends on, well, we know it can't be the pendant, but it could be a key item that might point I'm all in, faster towards the pendant potentially. If they come out of here with a clone or an egg and we know where the pendant is, we might go get that and follow it. If it's something less useful, then I would say that generally, like, the bridge is going to be faster. Ooh, that's a bad boss to see. See, this is the problem with early bridge. There's definitely, I would say, like a third of the boss pool that coming fresh out of the cathedral is kind of going to be a problem to deal with. Like, if we had a bunch of red vests or even like ruby vests, we could probably be okay. But yeah, so Nate's gonna put that gate key back on the shelf, and it looks like they're gonna join all in here at Hecarim to accomplish what I think they might both end up going back to the bridge at the same time, which would be great. But I think Nate's coming here to be like, all right, I need at least enough hit points to survive getting flared like once, and this is not quite enough. So
I think the other interesting part of the bridge too is that ultimately you would want the gate key, but knowing that the pendant's at stale stop, I think there's a thought of, do you go ahead and turn that in, do the jail scene and get into the future, and then you open up a lot of really good loot, which will make things a little bit easier on you. Another character check that will come into the party at level 15, because it is, obviously a little bit buried, and would make that Son to Son fight on the bridge a lot easier. So kind of, I think what's really exciting here is a lot of variability and a lot of opportunities to see what what kind of divergence we're gonna see.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm rooting for, because I just personally love doing this, is either taking that pendant early. We have Luca with Flare. We have a fast-ish Robo and probably enough speed tabs that we can. We might need a couple. I'm doing a little bit of the math, and it's like, nah, we're not really. I want to see. I love an early. Well, I love an early Geno Dome. Having Flare as the screen clear is definitely one of the criteria for it being a wise choice to go do that. The other is that speed component, because essentially, the earlier, in my opinion, the earlier we can hit the higher reward in terms of loot and experience dungeons, it speeds up the rest of the seed for us, and so it's like most valuable to do those as early as possible. And potentially, I have had races where I lose to a person that is routing what is the shortest dungeons in front of me, right? But levels is hard, and you got to get those levels somewhere. So it might be just also a holdover from. I do also play a lot of the Final Fantasy VI rando, and it's like early levels rule of the day in that one too, and so I've just maybe carried that over. But Hecarim Cave is a great place to quickly get the rest of the party off the ground. Maybe Robo learns something useful. Oh, Chrono has the spin cut, Confuse, and Luminaire are the three.
Ask for more. That is so good. Well, okay, maybe Lightning 2 for Shock. Or actually, is Shock Luminaire? Or Dual Shock?
It's Shock and... Oh, you're talking about Super Volt. I think that's Lightning.
Yeah,
2.
Super Volt. Thank you. Yeah, so that's probably the only other thing you'd ask for. So this party absolutely loaded to bear. You have a Luca with Mega Bomb, Napalm, and Flare, a Chrono with Spin Cut, Confuse, and Luminaire. And I think I know I saw Rocket Punch, but I'm missing Robos because I'm so excited how good those two characters are. And then I'm all in, opting for Frog instead of Chrono. Still picked up Water too for the AoE, but unfortunately not going to be very useful in an Elder Spawn fight here at the back of Hecarim.
Yes, but also no. Elder Spawn counters with a single target attack. So if, and I saw this too, we got to protect up. Ooh, not enough. They can't wipe us all at once. Now, this could get a little hairy if they also take their turn right after a counter, but the Black Vest that was found is helping out there. We got 80 hit point revives, which is 30 more than usual. Not too bad. But yeah, potentially by flaring and picking Luca back up, we could get through this fight faster. Now, Luca has to survive attacks, but I think that's only should be okay.
Yeah, this is where you're very, very glad you did your opening shopping run for those revives, because you can kind of lean into those single target counterattacks with the Elder, especially when you have Flare that's doing 1,000 damage a roll. That is phenomenal.
Yeah, we really only need, all in needs to do a couple hundred more damage to the, yeah.
Yeah, and there you see the caliber the runners are dealing with here in the finals, where, once you know these boss HP pools, you can count damage, and as opposed to me, a little bit newer of a runner who just flails about and does my strongest attacks all the time. If you know you're only 100 away, just a regular attack, and I'm all ins through.
Yeah, that's one of those where I think most of the time using your strongest possible attack is the optimal. Oh, the Moonstone is the optimal choice. Well, we have. Okay, that's actually interesting.
Yeah,
because the Moonstone requires access to both prehistory through the gate key and the future through the pendant. We know where both of those are. All in does not yet. Nate does. So normally it's like, we don't have Marl though, so we still would need that actually because she's required as well.
And you need the Rainbow Shell too, correct?
Yes. So there's a lot more that we would need. All in choosing to come to the desert right after this. They have water too, so Frog can one-shot everything in here. And that will give them a solid chunk of levels that will, from my perspective, they can kind of confidently tackle anything they have access to. After coming through here, and then on top of that, potentially get a key item reward.
Yeah, I believe that, while these mobs are weak to water, they do take magic damage fairly well, and with a flare and how strong Luca is, I'm pretty sure that she could screen wipe as well. But obviously MP cost is a thing there, and her being slow is a thing as well.
Yeah, the ethers are 3 times more expensive, and I haven't looked closely to see what they're restoring. They might be better than normal, but
I believe I saw either a 12 or a 13. They are better than normal tonight, which is phenomenal. Yeah, when a lot of techs are like 20, our best techs are 20, rolling sub 10 really hurts that you have to use 3 ethers to get back to 20 if you're zeroed out. So rolling better is a pretty welcome boon.
Yeah, so both of our runners, a little bit of the similar thoughts. This is really like the highest value area. Like they could go to the future, but like there could be a nasty boss at the end that would be a challenge. And so, I see a question from chat while we're doing a little grind here. The flag set, the randomizer text. Okay, so really the main, definitely more random flags is we have the gear rando on. That's why we're seeing all these pluses and minuses on equipment, question marks occasionally. Question mark tells us something different is happening with this thing. Look more closely. The tech order is shuffled. The formulas are all still the same, although we do have a flag to shuffle that around as well. The healing item values has been shuffled right now. I think they've shuffled generously so far. It could mean that some of the higher end stuff might be terrible. And yeah, those are the main, I think, flag nuances here. Oh, the hard items. So our runners did start with half as much money and more expensive restorative items. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask. The goal, we did touch this a little bit. Mostly the goal is to defeat Lavos. We have 2 ways to get there, and we'll reiterate on those when we get. We haven't really seen any of the items except for the pendant and the gate key that lead to our go modes, but we can go to the future and then run through the Black Omen after Death Peak and defeat Zeal Mammon, Zeal 2. That's one of the final boss sequences. Or there are 2 that will take us to Ocean Palace by way of Magus Castle, which we have Frog for, but we still need the other sword pieces and to forge that up. Or via Tyranno Lair, but we need the Gate Key, the Dreamstone, or the Ruby Knife for that. Yeah, we do have a Mega Mutant. Yeah, and they're gone. Not going to be a problem. The only mutant that physical damage works on.
Yeah, both of our runners now wrapping up Desert, seeing a Mega Mutant at the bottom, the easiest of the mutants. You maybe kind of hope that you saw one of the harder ones here, so you get it out of the pool sooner, because this boss spot is a fair bit easier. I'm all in, already through Nate in the fight now, and we're going to see our key item from the Robo turn-in. So this is the dungeon that I mentioned earlier was gated by Robo. You have to be able to have him in your party, so very heads-up play from both of our runners to pick Robo up from the back of Cathedral. I'm all in. Very interesting. Turning in the Robo, but not flying to 1,000 to get the key item immediately. Instead, opting to kind of economize on time and do 1 or 2 more checks here in the past. You know, figuring, hey, I got to fly to 1,000 AD anyways. I'll do it then.
Yeah, because if they peak this and it's like jerky, then they can reset and go turn in the Robo quests. Sometimes I don't do this because I'm worried I will forget. That, like, in my head I'll be like, oh, I've already got that reward, and then I think as a newer runner I must have done this once. And so that's a little bit of why I'm always like, no, just go get your reward, and then, like, yes, take the extra 10 seconds to flip around. I was gonna say, like, kind of like the time difference between Nate and I'm all in is like cat petting and shopping at the Millennial Pre. Like, I think beyond that, like, they're really like beat for beat.
Nate did take a reset on the bridge to go to bridge early and saw the sun, and so that's where I'm all in really is a bit ahead at this point, but really just like 15-20 seconds.
And I think I'm all in took a couple of extra encounters in Hecarim Cave relative to Nate too, but, like, you know, again, these are tiny differences, and so it's just, yeah, very interesting. 2 runners very close to one each other, and I mean, they're in the final, so it's like, obviously they're good / they're great, and it's going to come down to both. Obviously it's a randomizer, so there's always luck involved, but I think there's really a lot of looking at everything and trying to find, you know, a little edge here, a little edge there.
Oh wow, that's
we're fundraising for a pendant here on Nate's side.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I was gonna say the Lapis Robe magic.
I think I would note on that and be like, because Zeal, we do want, like, water protection ideally for a Zeal 2 fight, and so, like, knowing where those are is not like a need to buy now, but it's like a might need to buy later. Son of Sun, the second time for us, the first time for all in, much higher level, and they have at least one AoE healer, so I don't think they're really in any risk of losing this fight. It's just really, did they get the right flame?
You know, Fitz, I got a little distracted by the I'm all in, seeing them see if they would take the reset. Did we catch what the Robo I turn in was?
I also missed it.
Oh, goodness.
Call out the chat here for some help.
Ooh, yeah, that flare on the Son of Sun fight at the edge of bridge on I'm all inside doing right around 100, somewhat a little bit more. So these extra levels from doing desert helping immensely here, even without the elemental resistance to fire.
We're hearing from our eagle-eyed reporters in the field, it was the Ruby Knife, and I think that makes sense given that Nate's coming right back here. Ruby Knife, known gate key. That's going to be, and All In will also be collecting this Ruby Knife. So that puts us, at least for now, that the seed is pointing towards that Tyranno lair. However, I will say, I have often found that sometimes the first go mode I think I'm going to get is not it. Because it's kind of just like the odds are really at that point. There's so many more key items that could be that it's not the Dreamstone.
Yeah,
so
and especially
doing checks until.
Yeah, and especially with the frog in the party, that's one piece of our Magus castle. So suddenly you're really fishing for that Dreamstone, but unfortunately, it's not presenting itself. And next thing you know, you really have to lean into, say, a Magus Castle or make the judgment call of, do I keep going? Because Tyranno Lair is faster than Magus Castle. So one of the interesting aspects of multiple go modes, you kind of have that time balance of, I prefer Tyranno Lair, it's faster. If I can knock out one or two more key item checks, even if I already have Magus Castle available to me, maybe that's a smarter play for me.
Yeah, we'll see if our runners have to try to make that determination. Because we've kind of completed like our, the terminology, the Spear Zero, which is really just like, what can we do from the very beginning of the game? Getting the Robo opened up, the desert, Denadoro not done yet, but our runners are quickly looking at, I'm going to a different time. In prehistory, this is going to give us access to the end of time. We can unlock magic if we want. There is a character at the top of the Dactyl Nest. There is a key item check to be had in the Reptite Lair. And by getting access to the end of time, we can also go to the Ice Age time and go to my favorite mountain. It's not nice, but it's got the goods, Mount Woe.
It's not nice. It is in fact woeful. So
the thing I might consider, because I think our Luca is only at 12 speed with our speed tabs, is Denadoro has a speed tab, and if we went there and it happened to give us a Dreamstone, then we don't have to worry about anything else. We just go, and then otherwise. Yep. We get our speed tab, and now we can confidently do the rest of the in-game stuff by just having Luca cast Flare a bunch of times. I figured we were going to unlock magic mostly for Luca and really Luca. We would love to get a Fire 2 going. Maybe we want to get Frog Squash going on Frog at some point.
Yeah, I don't believe Frog has heal either, which is just a phenomenal all-in healing spell for all of the party. With Lapises not really being available, I would imagine that for runners that makes it much easier to lean into having Robo or Frog be healers, because you're not going to be able to buy Lapises for a non-healing party. So that's probably factoring into it as well, because I'm all in switching over to Chrono, Luca, and Frog. And like I said, unlocking magic as soon as they picked up that gate key.
Yeah, and that's a great observation that we are guaranteed. There are two shops that we're guaranteed to find Lapises in. One of them is that Fiona shop. The other one is the Fritz shop, which I do feel like both of these runners are disrespecting me for not immediately taking that pendant, freeing Fritz, and then going about their plans. I'm gonna write this down. Ask them why they disrespected me. Okay.
Why they're absolutely teasing commentary tonight.
So, yeah, I forgot my point. I got too fired up. Oh, we are going to Mount One. Nice. Oh, the Lapises. Yeah. They were Lapis-M's, which means they restore MP, which can be nice sometimes. But usually the HP ones are better. Tavern Helm. Oh, because Chrono starts with a bandana, which gives +1 speed. So we don't need that Denadoro speed tab.
Yeah, that is one of the trickier things with Mount Woe. This is, kind of most of the way through the vanilla game, so it does expect you to have more power than typically you'd come here in a randomizer, right? And so the difficult thing is to be able to outspeed the mobs and run from them, you do have to have 14 speed. So if you're newer to Jets of Time and Chrono Trigger, one of the things that's really interesting is that the hidden run bar that has to fill for your party to be able to run from a fight will still fill if you are in a menu on the wait setting. So as long as you can get into your menu, you can hold down the run buttons, and then as soon as you exit the menu, you will run. And so that's where it's really important to have the speed, because otherwise you're going to take some pretty strong hits from the mobs up here on Woe.
Yeah, and it depends on what the battle speed is set on too, because that impacts. In Chrono Trigger, it's in a fair way. Other games, the battle speed is wonky, right? Like in Final Fantasy VI, it just makes the enemies go faster. It doesn't make everyone's turns go faster. Usually starting out, people might play on like 4 or 3. I've noticed really it's noticeable, particularly around these endgame dungeons, that like at 13 speed, I have to be very quick on the input to get into a menu. Like the margin of error is smaller on battle speed 2 versus battle speed 3. But 14 speed gets the job done all day. We should probably talk about, because this is a good opportunity. Nate is up here in Denadoro just blazing through these screens. They've skipped 5 or 6 encounters so far, coming up on 7 right there. Chrono Trigger, we do have the battle execution. There's also movement execution, where a lot of the encounters are triggered by like hitting an invisible tile. Some of them are weirder and like took me a long time to understand, but essentially by like moving in particular ways. So a lot of them are using like ramps to move diagonally without inputting in a certain direction, sort of thing. But with that knowledge and like good execution, we can avoid triggering a lot of the encounters along the way.
We're going to speak in a Denadoro, Nate, getting towards the end, getting the rock that you get from the bird throw, picking up the blue rock, which has been extremely applicable in this tournament. Apparently before I got here into the community, there was almost a little bit of a meme from blue rock usage in a previous tournament, and in this tournament it struck a chord and has been used because ultimately if you have a Magus, Luca, and Robo, you can do Omega Flare, which correct me if I'm wrong, I believe is the strongest attack in the entire game. So Nate seeing that has to be thinking like, oh, maybe that Magus down in Hollow is where I want to go, and maybe the sword pieces are what I want to pick up now.
It is very powerful. And there definitely have been races that have been influenced by like running that offense. But the other thing I wanted to note was that rocks are considered a prism. Nice. Rocks are considered high tier relics, and so with Gear Rando, if they have a plus, that usually means they have a pretty sweet relic effect on top of them. That could be barrier or shield. It could be haste. It could be like sunshades effects. So that's like a particular little nuance of Gear Rando, is that rocks become more valuable because of their potential to have like an additional effect that can change the routing a little bit of places like Denadoro, Giant's Claw. There are some that we just always get, kind of like the Black Omen one is like on the way, right? But the ones that are a little bit out of the way. There's one in the new that changes our name. If we talk to him a second time, he gives us a rock in prehistory. So those are like the 3 that sometimes I've seen a little wrinkle of like not sought out, but then in Gear Rando, especially earlier, it's like, well, if I'm here, I might as well grab them because, you know, they could roll something that will speed up the rest of the game for me.
Getting to the top of Denadoro, yeah.
Early on fight. Like, Denadoro is open from the beginning, but this boss spot has around 3,000 hit points and it hits pretty hard.
Yeah, Denadoro it can be a little spooky if you get a tougher roll up there, especially if your party is leaning one way or the other, magic or physical. It can stop you in your tracks, and I think one of the trickiest things that I've learned the hard way is that you better be saving off slot, because there's a halfway through the dungeon save slot, and it's never fun to have to hike back down. But Nate Nate made very easy work of that slash with, I think, picked up a demon edge for the Chrono, so has a decent sword even if it's -3, and Confused was doing nearly 1,000, so the spot has 3,600. Pretty easy to chew through it. And wow, picks up the Dreamstone. Nate is in go mode.
I feel like, that's like a reverse curse. It's like a blessing. I was talking about this, of like, that's what my gut would be telling me, and I would probably go to Mount Woe anyway, and then I would be upset at myself after the race because I didn't listen to this random intuition that was based on absolutely nothing, right? Like, and I will say that this particular go mode, I think Nate has the juice to get through. And Ocean Palace has a staircase where we can kind of just repetitively grind. So as long as we have the power to get there, then we can spend some time there. And like get the levels we need to reliably defeat Lavos. Now I will say that the Mount Woe play is not going to pay off in terms of giving all in the Dreamstone, but he will likely not have to do any sort of additional grinding. So we will see some of that time offset a little bit, like potentially, like in theory, if all in goes to Denadoro next, he is probably not grinding at all inside of Ocean Palace, and so we'll probably make up a little bit of time in the back half, but there's still a lot of race left to go.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the aspects of I'm All In. You know, coming to Mount Woe maybe a little earlier than some racers would, but if you have the speed and you have the abilities to get through the mobs up here, it's phenomenal grinding and also really good gear. In fact, looking at the drop tables, we saw a Prism Helm, which is phenomenal for the status effect protection as well as great defense. Ocean Palace, I don't even think is that good. You know, maybe equivalent. So I'm All In may have levels and not need to grind in the way that Nate does, assuming they pick up that Dreamstone. But the other aspect too is they're going to have probably better gear than Nate, unless Nate gets a little lucky on some of the treasure chests in Ocean Palace, assuming that they beeline this go mode. Also, Tyranno can have some fairly decent gear as well, but it's not known for it in the way that Woe is. But before I get away from it, we are seeing a Nisbel 1 from I'm All In over on at the top of Woe, which is phenomenal.
That's not gonna be a problem.
No, not with Super Volts.
It's just going to be magic bombs away here from the team. I don't think we haven't seen a fire 2. Nate just unlocked magic, so
yeah, that's a little worrisome because, you know, Flare is phenomenal on its own. Confuse is great. Robo Tackle or Uzi Punchy is great, but you really need that Fire too. That is the linchpin of the phenomenal dual techs with this team. So if that is buried deep, that could be really unfortunate for this party comp.
Nate doing a little extra loot. This maze can has some decent stuff. They also, if there is a new shop on the way to our Gomo dungeon, and so we could also just be accumulating cash because you mentioned status protection. We generally want at least one piece of it for that Lavos fight. Sometimes I would say even two. Because parts of Lavos have a nasty habit of stripping in off of characters sometimes. We didn't pick up a Magus, so we didn't get a free amulet. All In has the Prism Helm. That's definitely one of those pieces of status protection. We can buy amulets at the new shop guaranteed, but they are 25k. Unfortunately, I didn't see anything like super great come out of this forest maze.
Yeah,
it was the Grand Leon.
It was, but it was a Crisis Moon, which is really nice. So I'm very curious of why. Yeah,
this is exciting. Okay, so the question one was, why the disrespect of me? And then question two I want to ask is, after whoa, why Denadoro? Because sometimes there's like a hunch. You get the hunch that it's like, well, I want to make sure I like clear those opening checks before I start going deeper in like one direction or another. Oh, it looks like Nate is grinding up getting our Weevil grind on. This is another, I think, nifty spot if we are in an early go mode and we're not feeling super great. These 4-packs, I think they're 1600 experience a piece, a decent amount of tech points.
I think the question I have for I'm All In is, I'm fairly confident they looked at Snail's Top, saw the pendant, did not buy it, because usually you need a little bit of extra cash. And so in the face of what you have open to you, made a really interesting decision, because I think some people would look at the 3 key item dungeons, the extra character in the future, when think, hey, let me economize and do that. But instead deciding to stick with what is already open here. I'm wondering if having that gate-keyed ruby knife is really informing that and thinking like, hey, maybe I get lucky, don't need to dip in the future, which is, in this case, the case for the seed.
Yeah, and I think the longer we put off buying the pendant and doing, the trial sequence to unlock the future, sometimes the harder of a choice it becomes, because it is a little bit of a time commitment. It does get us access to a bunch of stuff, but we do have to invest a few minutes to get access to that. And so that sometimes too can be like, well, I should probably clear what I have on the board, which would be this for All In, and then potentially like Reptite Lair. And speed tabs are good.
I think the other thing too, as I'd mentioned earlier, the pendant unlocks the ability to unlock the magic sealed chest. We have the flag on that as soon as you travel to the future, it unlocks it rather than having to go all the way through Zeal like you normally do in the vanilla game. And so that can really inform your choice too, if you really are feeling like you need that gear. And then I'm All In's case picked up some phenomenal drops up on WoW. So I think I'd be curious to know if not feeling like they need gear didn't feel like, hey, I need to go into the future to dip to pick up some of that stuff.
The rock's got speed +2 on it.
Wow, that's really great, especially for Luca to speed her up.
Yeah, this race is closing. Oh, secret tunnel. This race is closing up quickly because it's really just like, I don't think All In. I think they're going straight. They're going straight to Tyranno Lair coming out of here.
Mm-hmm.
And so time Nate is spending here, which, like, understandably, Not having done Mount well, maybe not feeling as ready, and it's probably not for Tyranno Lair, although Tyranno's got a lot of hit points to get through.
Yeah, interesting. You got go mode, you've got the party that you're probably sticking with. This has got to be a gear play, I would think. Definitely a few levels, but
unfortunately only gave us consumables, but sometimes we can pull quite a high tier item out of here. I saw an elixir, I saw hyper ether. Useful, not the sort of value we would be looking for.
Yeah, definitely. And with I'm All In at the slash at the top of Denadaro, really going to close the gap pretty quick, because I very much doubt I'm All In goes to Tyranno, like you said, or goes to Reptite, like you said. Probably going to beeline right to Tyranno with the levels that they picked up on top of Woe. Ooh, that black vest is very nice. I think that's the second black vest for Nate. The Zeal fight, which I guess we're not going to head that way, but Shadow Absorb can be extremely helpful, especially if you get the roll with the Black Tyranno at the top, or not Black Tyranno, with the Tyranno at the top of Tyranno Lair.
Yeah, so we know both of our runners are going the same go mode. They had to go through Tyranno Lair. We'll try to... There's some really, I think, interesting skips in there. Some that took me quite some time to get down. So I'll try to point those out along the way. The Tyranno fight itself is not... well, it actually is. The amount of hit points Tyranno has is randomized within the range. And I know sometimes with an early go mode, a high HP Black Tyranno can be a wall.
Oh, very interesting. Nate showing off that there is a way to reroute back to the front of the dungeon. Yeah. 90+% of the time, you are going to be coming here to do the key item check, go through the boss. And so, to be honest, I didn't even know about that. So that is really heads up and really shows off that indeed this was some levels and equipment. And gonna save Nate some time.
We want
too.
Maybe Tex. I think we were hunting for Uzi Punch. But I also saw Fire 2 is not on the list yet. Even so.
Rando's gonna rando, and sometimes what it gives, it takes away. And Fire 2 being buried deep is really unfortunate. Interesting. Nate perhaps still grinding on these Weevils rather than going to Tyranno. Must really feel like they need those extra attacks. I'd be very curious what has kept him. Tyranno Lair can be really awkward. That Black Tyranno and Azla at the top can be really, really rude. And so perhaps feeling like needing a little bit of something extra before going in. But I'm all in into Tyranno Lair, now taking the lead.
Yeah, we're gonna go get it. We're gonna go get this rock. Yeah, they'll probably have like 90 seconds on Nate. Which is not a ton. Ocean Palace doesn't have a particularly huge amount of encounters to skip with movement. But there's a lot that can be fought or run from. And so I think like our next kind of sort of key decision point is going to be that how much do I grind on the Ocean Palace stairs?
Absolutely. And if Fire 2 is buried deep, probably more than you would want to, frankly. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch the finish of this one.
Yeah, I think
enough of a variance in the past. The Mount Woe play not paying off in terms of the key item. We'll have to see if All In is able to get that Crisis Mune hitting the big numbers. So that's going to be based on Frog's single digit HP. If it's a 9, he will do a wild amount of damage. If it's a 0, he will do no damage. And then they're like multipliers. Oh, I was going to talk about this. Oh, this one's really hard. There's like you both have to like hit the door correctly, and I think hit a button.
Yeah, this is arguably, I would argue the hardest skip in the entire game. But I'm all in halfway through Tyranno Lair, showing us a golem boss, which is
the most dangerous boss in the entire game.
The sarcasm is dripping bits, but yeah, in fact, actually the easiest boss and one of the few honest to goodness free bosses. Will not even attack you. That being said, the script is slow, so 9 times out of 10 you're going to see a runner go ahead and kill the boss, but really nice to see here. I think on Nate's side, only now getting into Tyranno Lair, doing the setup to turn the Dreamstone in to kind of unlock the lair. Took a little bit more time outside, went to the new and got a Silver Plus rock, and then did a little bit of shopping as well. So kind of unfortunately widening the gap, but not by much.
Yeah, I think there's been every now and then there's like a suggestion of like we should just make Golem Boss like real. But I don't know. We could. But it would be
Where's the fun? Yeah, where's the fun in that?
I think it would be tough to really capture like the like would it be like, well, there's supposed to be a more powerful golem. But isn't that just Dalton Plus anyway?
Wow, Nate, I believe, pulled off that really tough skip, so picked up a little bit more time into the Golem Boss themselves. Yeah, I think I've heard that argument. I think one of the things that I would look to instead is the Mud Imp fight, which is also very, very easy and typically free unless you have, just absolutely the wrong party comp. I could see beefing that fight up a little bit more so that you didn't have quite so many quote-unquote free fights.
Yeah, I think that one is also like a weird quirk with like, I don't think we actually like explicitly said this. So the bosses that are all shuffled around, they one of the flags that we have on is called boss spot HP, and so they have the hit points of whatever boss they are replacing. So this golem boss has a Nisbel 2 amount of hit points, for instance. There are a couple of exceptions to this, and then also if it's a like multi-part boss, that hit points get spread out. So that kind of inherently makes like a Mud Imp, the R series fight, a little bit weaker. And then I think Mud Imp has like even less HP than the other two parts. So even at like later game spots, they just don't have a lot of hit points. And you can usually just like throw big stuff at them and then they're gone, right? Or like one tailspin will get the job done. We do have Tyranno. Ayla's already gone, so and it looks like we're in our charge up phase. So
yeah, very, very quick. I mean, I think with the power we probably won't see it, but Black Tyranno will count down from 5 to 0 and then do an ultimate attack on you. The element of the attack is randomized, so you may not know exactly what it is. Sometimes it could be favorable, right? If you have, in this case, I saw both of our runners have a blue mail, so a water attack would be really, really great there. But in this case, there's so much power. I mean, I would be curious, since we do not have a Fire Sword 2, we're going to have to lean into single text, but I think with the levels picked up on Woe, I'm All In's going to be real quick through this fight, and Nate right on his tail getting into the fight right now and taking down the Azella themselves.
yeah, definitely less than 90 seconds separating these two here. And level wise, All In's not at full health, so it's hard to. We'll see when they like menu next. I think they're pretty close. I think All In has a gear edge, slightly. And they're running very similar parties overall, too.
Yeah, and then on top of that, our wonderful chat keeping track here better than we are. And I saw that at the start of the dungeon, they were about a minute 40 apart. Now they're only a minute 20. So Nate picked up 20 seconds in Tyranno Lair, which is pretty huge. But in this case, I'm all in through that Black Tyranno. Now going to be heading out to Zeal and to the Ocean Palace on their way to Lavos.
Yeah, a little quick trip through some skyways, a little shop. Definitely this shopping trip is an area where time can be like gained and lost by just kind of runners knowing like, what do I need? What do I have to sell? How much money do I have? Like, usually we're looking for status protection if we still need that. Hopefully, I always love to have a mega elixir, kicking around. Sometimes we can buy those, but usually we're just trying to buy like high-end consumables. Occasionally there'd be something wild in there, like there might be the rainbow of our, it's like, oh, rainbow, and then we sell the farm. But there's also a speed tab available, but I don't think we might not need that speed with the Robo's ribbon, the tab and vest, some decent elemental armor there in the low end news shop. But now we're going premium here.
I think everything but the white vest. See, rainbow helm, which is really, really nice. Of course, the amulet, which is a given, and I have to imagine that's what we're selling the farm to pick up.
Yeah, at least one, maybe two, or one and some helms.
I could see two, because we haven't really picked up a ton of amulets or relics that really would drive you away from wanting to use that stuff, like prism specs, haste. I forget the name of it is, but the one that gives you haste, like some of the stuff that makes you kind of think to yourself, do I really need that amulet?
That's what you're looking for.
That's
an iron helm.
Yeah, sometimes if you pick up the right accessories, going all in on amulets for the status protection, it just doesn't always feel the best when you kind of think to yourself, well, I have to sacrifice 25% extra damage from specs.
Interesting. Oh, another rock. I forgot about this one.
Gold Rock Plus.
It's a plus.
Yeah, very interesting decision. I mean, I can't imagine any rock would really influence a party change unless I'm forgetting a like Luca Frog Robo Rock or something like that. So very interesting decision there from I'm All In to spend the time on that.
Yeah, I mean, a rock, like rock hunting were showstopper effects, like a haste rock or a Sunshades Prism Specs rock, because that would certainly swing a party comp. Like if it's +5 magic, +5 magic defense. Not the worst thing in the world to actually throw on a Robo. In Chrono Trigger, healing spells do not scale off of levels at all. The rest of pretty much every other tech, this is going to be super easy.
Yeah, I'm All In showing us that the top of Zeal is the R series fight. So once again, another very easy fight, borderline free to get into the Ocean Palace.
The news here.
Yeah, both of our runners making some interesting routing decisions. I believe I've seen Nate do this throughout this tournament, make this decision to come here. Does show off Alphador, the namesake of our tournament, which is really, really great. But, man, in a race, I don't know if I've got the guts.
It is 90 tech points for pretty fast. And a magic tab and a speed tab.
Yeah, no, that is interesting. Perhaps
because magic tabs are the other way that we can make a Robo heal and turn it in. Yeah, is that worth 30 seconds? It doesn't seem like a lot. And the hardest part is, in the runner's seat, we really have no idea how close it is.
Yeah, and I've got to imagine you got to be feeling pretty comfortable. I mean, he did pick up a very quick.
And you're kind of trying to hedge a little bit. Because a lot of times the risk of an early go mode is crashing out at like Lavos. Because we just don't have enough power, or sometimes with lower power we have to get lucky. I saw I think a silver earring pickup out of the Tyranno lair. That's nice to boost like a Luca's hit points, but there's generally kind of like a level threshold we're trying to hit, like coming off of this stairs.
Wow, dropping part full of it ethers.
Is just having enough hit points to be able to survive some of the bigger attacks that Lavos can do.
Well, and I think at this point too, you're really looking for that fire too as well. You get a lot of AP points going through the rest of the Translator, including the final boss that we've got in front of us, the dual boss fight. But still, having Fire 2 for that fight would be absolutely beneficial, but also seeing full ether drops here. So, we talked about how much more expensive things are. Being able to pick up a couple ethers is also really, really nice.
Yeah, we want to have a handful of those kicking around in the firefight. I see in chat some wishes about... If you want to experience some of the lesser used, do you have? Here we go. Let me advertise it. Phone will appreciate it. Do you have a problem that you play just in time, but you kind of just end up using all of the same text over and over again? Well, I have news for you. There's a flag that's called Tech Damage Randomizer. What it does is it shuffles the MP value of text and adjusts their damage form accordingly. So, Luca's Fire can cost 20 MP, be very strong. Uzi Punch can cost 1 MP, be very weak. And so, it takes some of those, maybe lesser used, lesser appreciated combinations, and makes them more viable. And in addition to making kind of the choices of like, when do I commit to a character, a lot more difficult. Because in addition to like the tech order still being, different, now we can't even guarantee that a Luca with Flare is going to be that useful.
Yeah, and I think the other really unfortunate thing too is if you get a low roll on something like Flare and Fire 2, then both of your AoE screen wipes are absolutely nerfed, and that can be quite painful. So that's the other thing that's a little scary about Tech Damage Rando. But once again, hey, we're randomizing here. Let's go all in.
Ooh, some nice scouter dodging.
I mean, bobbing and weaving their way through this first floor on the Ocean Palace, doing a couple more loot pickups. I think kind of showing off, maybe feeling like they need a little bit more gear despite the Reptite layer play and some of the levels they picked up there. Whereas I'm All In still going through quite a bit of grinding. Once again, I think looking for the levels, but also looking for that Fire too. But also, I think the other aspect too is at a minute 12, being in Ocean Palace, you're feeling like you are, just on wheels here. This is a really fast seed, and you got to feel pretty comfortable, even if you're thinking to yourself, "Hey, my opponent could have done this." We still have seen phenomenal execution from All In, so perhaps feeling like, "Hey, I can commit the time here." Oh wow, heal beam coming out from Robo. So also probably looking for a little AoE heal too from this grind.
Not right now, but we can suggest that. I see in chat with the tech damage rando, it just the double techs are just based on the component. So it could be like single tech fire is 20, and then fire sword 1 becomes more powerful than fire sword 2, sort of thing. So it's really all of the double and triple tech formulas are based on like their component techs usually times some sort of multiplier, which is why sometimes I feel like with newer players there's like a question of like, well, is it really faster to use like dual techs or triple techs? And it's like, well, one, they never miss. Single tech physical, well, even sometimes magic attack. I've missed like a napalm on a desert enemy before, but and then the other answer is a lot of times their formulas are like 1.25 times the value of the damage calculation of fire plus the other one, and so
I'm all in.
The answer is it probably could, but I am not a rando dev, so I couldn't tell you how hard it is. But I will also say that like a lot of the flags we have like an element random one too that shuffles everyone's element around. I think a lot of those have been kind of like community thought of and developed together. So join the Discord if you want to see it and be enthusiastic enough about it. And like, who knows? So All-In's reached the bottom of they're done grinding. They're heading down the elevator here. What do we have in store for us? Peaceful elevator, just some light music. Nothing going on, right?
Silver lining, you do have a couple fights, unfortunately. I think we've been on a public elevator that feels like you're getting in fights. But thankfully, the first one you can run from. You're not in the middle of the elevator ride. But I'm all in the elevator right now, and is going to have to take on some of these very rude people that perhaps are making this elevator ride uncomfortable.
Yeah, a series of fights. It's really like the execution here can affect how long a runner takes to go through here. In particular, it's these little floating eye guys with the elements that can be particularly tricky. With this particular party, usually we're looking at like a frog squash, a dino tail with low hit points, a black hole out of Magus. Luminaire will do it for this one. A Max Cyclone, I think, can get the majority of the scouters. If I want to say it's like 4 or 5, so that'll make it a lot faster there.
Yeah, perhaps a little awkward with Robo being on the left rather than the center, since the AoE for Max Cyclone is based on Robo's location. But I'm not sure it gets all 6 of them even in the center, because the center isn't like dead center, right?
Yeah, it's been a while since I've had the Max Cyclone like team, but
oh yeah, just 2 of them in this case. So gonna have to get through the other 4. And I think the most unfortunate is the blue one, obviously being weak to water. We don't really have water here, so probably gonna have to do some sort of physical to chew through that little sucker.
Yeah, usually like an Uzi punch is sufficient if we have it. Assuming we don't have like a cardboard arm on, but.
Yeah, meanwhile, Nate on the other side, well into their grind, still committed to it, still chewing through it. I think perhaps an opportunity to get ahead here, or to at least make up some time if Nate feels a little more comfortable with the lower level Lavos and takes a few less fights here. Ultimately, we'll have to see how that plays out. But this is one of those situations where, depending on your comfort level and how you're feeling about your party, you could pick up a little bit of time if you feel like you can get through this with less levels.
We do see the fire too.
There it is. Whew.
I saw Nate's like 460 away, which I think if they just run down the stairs now, they will unlock it before the twin spot. But if they're wanting that for the twin spot, then I think they have like a fight or two to go.
Yeah, that's the tricky one, right? Because you get so many magic points from the twin spot that you will pick it up there. But if you do need it there, it can feel very absent if you haven't taken the time to grind out on the elevator.
Now this is a best of 3, so no one's out of it. Yeah, it looks like, we're done with the repetitive grinds. Nate's in 31 across the board. So definitely grinding up a little bit more at this spot compared to I'm All In. We have 2 super slashes.
Well, that's really nice because you can Hypno-Wave one of them, right?
Super Slash loses Slash has like mental resistance, so Super Slash like loses all of those. I'm trying to remember because Flee Plus is the one that is weak to all statuses. Super Slash, I don't think we can status.
Yeah, it must not be because I think I'm All In, being the level runner that they are, would have leaned into that if that was an option. But also, Super Volt into Flare, you're probably going to take both of these down at the same time with all this damage.
Yeah, they will still hit really hard and get into their countery stuff like this. That's going to hurt. Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, 434.
And that's going to hurt.
Oh,
not as much because Robo's got higher defense.
Definitely.
They're both pretty close to being dead. Like, I'm thinking another flare is going to finish the job. But I myself wouldn't feel 100% confident about that, so I would definitely top off just in case.
Yeah, certainly a little spooky, and I think, if you get both counters here, you have to get a little lucky that Luca doesn't get hit, but regardless, I'm All In, taking both of the super slashes down through the fights, and it's going to be heading into Lavos extremely soon, probably after some healing and some saving. Nate, in the meantime, finish up the grind now in the elevator fights. Running from that top one, writing down, so you're just a couple minutes behind. Lavos has a very distinct way to be extremely rude, so despite the clear advantage for I'm All In, it's very much a race at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Lavos has a storied history of flipping races. Nate is definitely within a Lavos wipe of being right back in the mix. All In has a pretty solid, they got that Fire Sword too now. They got a decent Chrono Sword, a decent arm, at least 2 pieces of status protection. So it's really because the Lavos fight, Lavos 3, is the least predictable. Like they do just flip the time zones, and then once they're in them, we know what they're going to do, but which ones they go into is random. And some of them are more dangerous than others. So a lot of times the challenge of that fight is sometimes a party is not well suited to deal with one of those patterns of attacks. I don't know, the damage output is looking pretty good. Lavos 1, we got 10k to get through. They're gonna beam us
Very interesting choice here. Yeah, not going Fire Sword 2, instead doing the individual techs here from each person. Wondering if, with the speed differences, realizes that waiting for Luca and Chrono to have the turn together is not terribly beneficial.
Yeah, I honestly often forget about Max Cyclone as even an option for taking these down. Like, there's the OG, the classic Falcon hit that, every time I would come through here in my kid playthroughs, it was definitely Chrono Ayla and then somebody.
That was really nice. Obstacle only spiking a sleep on the Robo. So quick heal there, and the party's back up on its feet and doing damage. Yeah, Nate, unfortunately, hitting those 6 scouter fighter, the elemental scouts, and having to really just kind of lean in one by one rather than get any kind of AoE. I'm not sure if just not thinking of Max Cyclone for at least 2, but taking a little bit longer there, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think a real challenge I experience, especially like where I feel like I'm on a fast pace, is there's kind of this balance of like, if we overthink, then maybe we spend too long fiddling in our menu, or being like indecisive can cost us time. If we're thinking too little, we might make like a mistake in terms of like, not putting something on that would save us time. So it's like trying to keep that sort of like flow state, like that medium brain space where we're thinking just enough to, be optimal, but we're not, second guessing ourselves. Can be hard to maintain for a long time, especially if you feel like you hit an early go mode. And it's sitting in Nate's spot where it's like, I didn't really do any extra checks, right? Like, yeah, there was the Moonstone, but that came from Hecarim Cave, and like, it's reasonable your opponent has done that. So it's kind of like, well, I found the fastest path, but I feel like I've been executing pretty well. It might depend on how have my Lavos fights gone recently. Do I play a little bit safer? And it is a best of 3 as well, so we don't necessarily have to full send it in race 1.
I'm all in, showing where having the really good AoE is phenomenal in the Lavos too. Normally the arms can be a little scary because you get the boomerang attack, which are fully capable of one-shotting. In this case, was able to get off a flare and a super volt and take one of the arms down, and then subsequently cause some damage to the core that caused it to heal the other arm to heal the core. So never even saw a boomerang attack, which is great.
Yeah, those laser bananas, they do a lot of damage.
Despite the name, not delicious.
Yeah, that poison is going to reduce Robo's damage a little bit there, but they're not really our main damage person, so...
No, almost more really of a healer.
Taking the time to fix.
Nate making his way through the dual super slashes, being a little rude. He's got his Chrono on the ground, Robo up against the ropes, but still should have plenty of time to get some heals off here. Yeah, up comes Chrono.
Yeah, we mostly are just probably picking him up, make sure he gets the experience and or tech points here. All in, very fast through. Now, Lavos 3 is often... This is the most worst part.
Yeah, this is where it gets swingy, and bad RNG can put you really in a bad spot and feel like you're up against the ropes and recovering the whole time. So, hopefully pick up some good luck here because I'm all in. Nate through the super slashes right behind. But it's going to take a little bit of luck for Nate to get back in this and hopefully pull out a win.
Yeah, I think if I was feeling safe, all in hitting the menu glitch to be able to get into their menu and heal up between the phase change. But if I was feeling safer, I would take down the middle bit first and then go from there. If I was feeling risky and wanted to go fast, I would do what All In is doing and punch down the left bit and start unleashing my AoE to 1 damage, what I like to call the brain bit, the one on the right, and then also to put some damage on the this is bad, to put some damage on the middle bit so that we can quickly down them as soon as the other bit revives. Now, unfortunately, this prehistory time warp means we're gonna see the ultimate physical attack Grandstone do a lot of damage. Luca might go down, but I think the other two. Chronos? This Grandstone does a ton of damage.
Yeah, this is that bad RNG I was talking about. Unfortunately, maybe a little bit of a commentator's curse here, but this is really unfortunate and taking on the chin right now. And only Luca down. Chrono not even on his knees, so very beneficial. Nate into the Lavos 1 fight now.
Yeah, Chrono having life, it was making me a little nervous because I saw the revive counts were a little bit low, but having that life caster means we don't often need as many.
Ugh. On Nate's side, doesn't have the stats protection that I'm All In had. Instead, saw Chrono and Robo go to sleep, so only Luca up. So having to play a little catch up with the healing here rather than lean into the damage, but should still be safe.
All right, and All In is switched over, took down the middle bit. Now there are these single target counterattacks, which are very annoying, but again, we have the life spell. And All In will just keep trying to keep the pressure on the right bit. They've got 20,000 hit points to churn through. They're chunking them up pretty good. Ooh, that's annoying. Yeah, that's that Lavos move that removes status protection.
Yeah, so Chrono's going to be vulnerable now taking that one.
Now we might not get to where middle bit comes back and then could do something about it, but now we got to wait a little bit because the power has been restored from the left bit coming back, and now it's shutting off because the middle bit got killed. They definitely got a little behind on the queue there, but I think one more.
So very, very close on I'm All In. Nate walking into Lavos 2 right on his heels. But it's not to be. There is the fade. I'm All In is done, turning in a time of 1:31.36. Absolutely blistering pace from All In, taking match 1 in the best of 3 of the Alphador Derby finals. GG's to I'm All In.
Yeah, definitely GG. It's a very fast race. I think we saw the Mao Woe not pay off in reward of key item, but definitely saving them some time on the grind. Nate first to get the go, but all unable to catch up with those banked up levels, and great execution on Lavos 3. Never really got too out of hands, and at the right time kind of switched off Luca and was having Luca be more of an alchemist than a damage dealer, and just a well played seed from really both runners, just back and forth the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely. Saw a lot of lead changes there. A lot of somewhat tricky things, not the least of which is having a very quick go mode. So GG's to I'm All In, who is here in the booth with us.
Hi. How's it going?
Oh, pretty good. We watched a pretty fun race. Really close, back and forth. And yeah, what were I wrote down some questions here.
Well, I know the number. First,
the number
you first.
one, the disrespect. How come nobody bought the pendant and went and saved Fritz? Like,
I thought you were actually going to ask me why I didn't pet the cat, and honestly, I just forgot.
No, I was willing to forgive that for once, but no, my first serious
I think it was
question.
waiting to see if you needed to go pendant, and you kind of once found the gate key, then it opened up enough checks without pendant to say, well, I'm just going to do pendant later. And so I thought about it early on, but then once I got that gate key, then I kind of took it off the table and said I'm going to at least try to go whoa and get up some power-ups, and try and find some weapons. I was really struggling early on with party composition because Chrono, Frog, and Robo are just so weapon dependent, and even getting the Crisis Mune on the top of Mount Woe, I thought about Frog for about one battle, and then picked up a Vedic Blade, I think, on Slash at Denadoro, and I said that's good enough to put Chrono back in.
Yeah, I was gonna ask after you did your WoW, you got some good gear, you got some of them great levels, walked out of there with the Crisis Mune. What pushed you to do Denadoro next for like a Reptile Lair or pursuing the pendant?
I think at that point it's just all checks are quick because you've got your levels, and so it was either going to be Reptite Denadoro or Denadoro Reptite, and if those didn't work out, then it was going to be Future.
Yeah, I think that's beauty. Any questions?
And then it turns out,
for you there?
To get the, I think it was the Dreamstone was the last piece, maybe, and then, it's almost a little cliche that everybody says, well, then you feel behind, because it's like, well, what if they did that?
No immediate questions for me. It was just such a great run. I think you kind of answered it on your own regarding the WoW play and kind of what the driver there was. But coming off of WoW and especially picking up Go mode so quickly and going into Ocean Palace, did you feel like you really needed to commit to much of a grind there, or do you feel like you picked up enough from WoW that it was going to be inconsequential?
Well, I was doing the math on Luca's Fire 2, so that was one part of it. And then the other part of it was, I still felt like the weapons that Chrono and Robo had were a little middling. So I wanted to maybe get a little bit extra there, which then I think it turned out Robo got an even better arm a little bit later. So it ended up working out, but I was really putting a lot of faith in the seed to provide weapons, and it took a while.
Definitely hard mode or hard item mode rearing its head there, which I think leans into the other aspect. And you kind of shared go mode and kind of the routing there. But was there any temptation to go after the pendant for sealed chests and for gear? Did you feel confident enough coming up a woe that you had the power?
Yeah, I felt confident, at least with defensive gear. There was like 2 Aeon suits up there, um, and maybe a blue mail -2 or something like that. So I felt like I had the defensive gear. I bought a couple hats at the new shop to um, round out, some lightning protection just in case Lavos decided to, shoot lightning bolts at me today. Um, Instead, he tried to grandstone me, but luckily was able to get through that, probably because of a little bit longer grind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think perhaps the only other question I had is, the back of chapel play is definitely something that is somewhat different in a lot of racers. In this case, you routed it in. What was the thought to routing that in versus fading it like you see, I'd say a good 50% of the community do?
Fading it was an option because Luca had, Flare in her tech list. But I was, again, with such middling weapons on Chrono and Frog. Chrono started out with like an Iron Blade -1, and then there were a plethora of Red Katana -3s that, I at least wanted one other option. So I was probably going to be okay with Marl, Robo, or Ayla back there. And, when I got Robo, at least I knew there that I had opened up a key item check. So it was kind of a gamble, but then that ended up working out. Even though now I'm already forgetting like what desert actually was, which item. But
Ruby knife, so part of your go mode.
Okay, so it was necessary, and so at this stage of the tournament too, we know each other a little bit, and kind of known that Nate is really likes that, and so in some way, don't let him hear this. That some way I thought of it as a free check, free character check, because if we both did it, then at least we'd be equal.
Mm-hmm. Very fair, very fair.
Oh, I'm gonna let him know because you didn't pet the cat.
Or save, Fritz.
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
Saves today.
I think you kind of mentioned it was no opportunities, so I can't be too upset. But
0 for 0.
In terms
that's
of
indeterminate, Fritz is both alive and dead.
It's the phase of the tournament. You've got to see, everyone kind of race. You've seen some of Nate's matchups potentially. Did you prepare any differently, or is there anything you're thinking about, heading into game 2 here, being up 1-0?
I mean, I think the main thing is, keep up on dungeon execution, especially with like Genodome. I know that's such a pot. It's a very powerful place to go. And leave anything on the table. So I think that's something to keep in mind for the next go round, and maybe we'll get a little rando magic, and we'll see if we end up at either 2 or 3.
Looks like Nate's getting back into phase 3 here, finishing it out strong. Gotta get those Lavos reps. Never can have enough.
Yeah, Lavos being an absolute bully on Nate's side.
I think that's another thing you can never predict is, Lavos can be Lavos, and where you're going to have a wipe or a slow fight that you just, in a boss rando, you never know.
Any final thoughts on the seed I'm all in? Any final commentary before you head off into prep for match 2?
I don't think so. Some seeds you get, your go mode items without doing a lot of checks, and this is one of them. We'll see what the next one has, and there could be anything from a frog with an early broken sword start, or it could be, we got to check just about everything. So be prepared, and good luck to Nate on the second one, and GG's when he finishes up here.
Well, speaking of, do you have a second match scheduled at this time?
Not yet. We're still working out.
Other people are still negotiating. we had some venue conflicts.
I've got my people talking to his people.
And there's some time travel involved. So yeah, it takes some time to
hassing out the merch percentage.
Yeah, Nate's really pushing for the points on that, so we gotta tamp that down. But we'll get it locked in pretty shortly here. I was hopeful when the Moonstone was in Hecarim Cave that I had rolled of Troll Seed, and y'all were gonna have to go everywhere because I was kind of like, ooh, the key, the pendant, the stone early. This seems promising, and then it was the complete opposite. Like, it was just all hanging out for the taking. Although the back of the cathedral play, this could be a whole different seed if you two skip it. I'd be curious to see how that works.
Yeah, that really would have changed a lot. So then I guess, we may have gotten Denadoro done, or put that up in the dungeon list, and come to the conclusion, pendant's our only option, and then we would have to see what happens there in the future.
Oh no!
But that could be a lot of, since we didn't find the Toma's Pop or Prism Shard or Hero's Medal, it could end up being a lot of checks that lead to checks in the future.
Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't have to find out.
The future never kind. When fighting Lavos 3, we saw the Dreamless. I feel like Chrono having life was like doing some work too, because I saw the revive numbers were getting kind of low heading into these fights. And I was like, oh, should I be worried? And then there's nothing worse than a Lavos fight where I just run out of revives. It's like, oh, well, I guess this is over now.
Yeah, his Chrono's life was reviving for about 300, and with the item rando, Lapis M's are nice, but sometimes you want that all party HP, and Robo is a good character for filling that gap a little bit. The seed, but but then you have to give up an attack from him.
Full party slow, that's rough.
Yeah, that's really rough. Oh, especially with the Robo queued up for the heal.
Oh no.
Yeah, Nate unfortunately on his heels right now. Once again, Lavo's just really showing how rude and difficult this fight is. Really unfortunate. Another bite for Nate, and taking a look in the race room, looks like Nate has went ahead and called it after 2 tries there and is forfeited for the night.
Yeah, valiant effort. 2 times is usually enough for me if I see that my opponent has finished. Like I said, that's good. That's good practice. Like you put that in the database, and I think like a real subtle, like kind of key thing was just not having 2 pieces of status protection. Really slowed Nate down, and in the Lavos fight, sometimes when we have to start slowing down and picking people up is when things will get out of hand. But even against Lavos 1, we saw like the sleep obstacle have a lot more impact than on all inside. So that woe trip plus the prism helm up there, given the juice to get over the finish line faster. See if I can pull Nate up here. We do have Nate as well. Hello. GG's.
Hey, what's up?
Yeah, so all right, yeah, I'll give you the same opening question here. What was with the disrespects not taking that pendant, going saving Fritz? What are we doing here? What's going on?
I was saving my money. That's what I was doing. And that gate key over at Bridge was pretty tempting, and as soon as I saw the ruby knife, that's whenever I really bounced over there to snag that really quick. And going up Denadoro was kind of a coinkydink that it was, the stone, the Dreamstone, and we got an early go mode. Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah, that was really the main sort of route difference. Was All In made the trip up Mount Woe, got the Crisis Mune, picked up a couple of nice pieces of gear along the way. A Prism Helm, I think, was the big get up there, and then headed to Denadoro themselves. It was definitely a back and forth race. Here was my other question. We saw the hit up the top of the Reptite lair, little secret tunnel action. Kind of what were you thinking? Hitting that early go mode. What was your plan from there?
I wanted to grind for levels. I didn't really want to go up Dactyl Nest. I didn't know if Marl was up there or not. And that was all just luck, I guess. I saw that they were digging like as soon as I came into the room, and I was like, I might as well take it. And that secret tunnel it should have been kept a secret. It didn't really give me anything too hot there. Yeah, but it is what it is,
Yeah, I think a great effort, a great race to watch and call. Definitely result up in the air almost the entire way. I guess my final question before I turn it over to Beauty, looking ahead, best of 3, you're down 1-0. What are you looking to adjust, to tweak for game 2?
To tweak. I might. That's a good question. Because I'm going to have to look over this and see what I did wrong, and I'm feeling that next time I'm going to not avoid the pendant and get those chests that are behind sealed doors, maybe. Yeah, loot was a problem, especially on Lavos with the status effects. That was brutal right there with not really having enough time to get my inputs in to do too much with everybody sleeping, which is weird because sleep is like one of the ones you don't really worry about too much, and in this case it's just like, wow. Yeah, that's it. It was brutal. All of them sleeping at the same time, and Evil Star hitting. Yeah, that was something. I'll give your seed that. I'll give the seed that.
I'll take it.
But yeah. I'm excited for game 2 though. I am.
GG's on a really well-run race. Lavos being an unbelievable bully to you on that side. But I think the question that I had is pretty much the same one I had for I'm All In, where we saw you also do backup chapel right from the get-go, which is something that is often faded by runners and decide to forego the character for key item checks. So wondering what your thought process was for not doing that in that situation.
Oh boy.
Or for doing it.
Before doing it, that was a long time ago. Who did I have? There was Chrono and Luca, and I think
Frog.
Frog. Yeah. And the heal was nice at the start, but knowing that, I think it was... Well, no, now that I think about it, Magus wasn't Burrow, I think. And I knew that at the time, but I forgot now. So I kind of had figured, well, I mean, I've got some pretty good odds of finding somebody here that can hold some progression, like behind... Well, I was hoping for Robo just to do Desert off the get-go and not have to look for Prism Shard if it was Marl. And that factored into that decision there. It was nice having that piece of, well, Frog for a go mode, but he's not hiding anything behind him besides the fact that he's part of Magus Castle go mode.
Yeah, I imagine with, both Chrono and Frog, they're both so gear dependent unless, you pull a Masamune or a really good Grand Leon variant. So I imagine that's a little rougher to run from with hard items on.
Yeah, I was really, really considering going up the Dactyl Nest too, and I feel like I would have been able to get through Lavos if I did that, but the future's, not on my side today, and it was a rough seed for gear. That Mount Woe play by I'm All In seemed pretty sweet, getting that Prism Helm and all those other little goodies.
Definitely showing where that edge can come from with the dungeon decisions. But any final thoughts? Anything as you kind of prep for game 2, which here's still a little TBD at this point, but very much excited for it nonetheless.
Yeah, I'm excited for it too. It's gonna be a good one. I've learned a lot from this. That's all I'll say, I think, for right now. Just with how gear dependent hard items is. It was a doozy. But 2 out of 3. 2 out of 3.
Still have an opportunity to come back and take it, so excited to see what you pull out, Nate.
Yeah, and I'm excited to go.
In our previous tournament, all the 2 out of 3s went 3, so I'm wary.
I'm worried too. Don't worry.
And I lost to you both, so I don't know who I'm rooting for Lavos, I guess. And so today I won.
I'm rooting to just finish the seed. That's what I'm hoping for.
All right, BD. Well, why don't we wrap things up here? I'm the descendant of a merchant from 1000 AD, one free Fritz, and been joined by Beauty and Discovery on commissary as well as tracking, doing a lot more than me. Why don't you take us out?
Yeah, and thank you so much to I'm All In and Nate, our runners tonight, for putting on a phenomenal show. Speedgaming for hosting us. It has been a blast tonight. Very much looking forward to race number 2, maybe race number 3. We'll see. But that's going to do it for us tonight. So thank you again to everybody, and we hope you have a great rest of your evening.